Did you know that Zion National Park's iconic sandstone cliffs rise over 2,000 feet vertically, higher than any structure humans have ever built? That these walls are being carved by the Virgin River, which drops 50 to 80 feet per mile through the canyon, making it one of the steepest river gradients in North America, and that the park contains rocks spanning 250 million years of geological history, but also features some of the youngest major canyon systems in the entire Colorado Plateau. Zion is not just a scenic canyon, it is a landscape being carved in real time, a vertical ecosystem where desert and forest meet, and a geological laboratory revealing how rivers can slice through solid rock. Get ready, because today you're about to discover 35 Zion facts you won't believe are true. Facts that reveal why this Utah canyon defies expectations at every turn. 35. The inverted topography paradox. Most canyons form when rivers cut downward into stable plateaus, but Zion defies this basic principle. The Colorado Plateau has been rising for the past 13 million years, uplifted by tectonic forces at a rate of approximately 1,000 feet per million years. The Virgin River maintained its course during this uplift, meaning it was effectively cutting upward through rock that was simultaneously rising beneath it. This created an inverted topography where the canyon formed not by downward erosion alone, but by the river keeping pace with 10,000 feet of total uplift. Geologists call this antecedent drainage. The river is older than the mountains it cuts through. 34. The Navajo Sandstone Fortress. The towering cliffs dominating Zion are composed of Navajo sandstone deposited between 190 and 136 million years ago during the Jurassic period. At that time, this region was a vast sand desert comparable to the modern Sahara, covering over 150,000 square miles of the western United States. These ancient sand dunes were buried, compressed, and cemented into stone, then uplifted and exposed. The result, sheer sandstone cliffs up to 2,200 feet tall, the tallest pure sandstone cliffs in the world. The Great White Throne alone rises 2,450 feet from base to summit, making it 674 feet taller than One World Trade Center and a single solid formation dwarfing modern skyscrapers. 33. The Virgin River's impossible gradient. The Virgin River drops 50 to 80 feet per mile through Zion Canyon, approximately 10 times steeper than the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon, which drops 7 to 8 feet per mile. This extraordinary gradient gives the river immense erosive power. Research by the U.S. Geological Survey shows the river has carved the entire 15-mile-long Zion Canyon in just 1 to 3 million years, geologically instantaneous compared to the Grand Canyon's 5 to 6 million year formation. The Virgin River carries approximately 1 million tons of sediment annually, constantly grinding away at the canyon floor and transporting 3,000 tons per day during normal flows. 32. The Weeping Rock Phenomenon. At Weeping Rock, water continuously drips from an alcove in the canyon wall, creating lush hanging gardens in the desert. What makes this extraordinary is the water's age. Research by park hydrologists shows that water infiltrating the porous Navajo sandstone takes approximately 1,200 years to percolate through the rock before emerging at seeps. The water you see dripping today fell as rain during the Middle Ages, around the year 825 AD when Charlemagne ruled Europe. The sandstone acts as a natural aquifer, storing water that travels through 2,000 plus feet of rock at a rate of less than 2 feet per year. 31. The subway's sculpted perfection. The left fork of North Creek has carved a passage through sandstone called the subway, a tube-like tunnel where water sculpted the rock into perfectly smooth curves resembling a man-made subway tunnel. This formation, accessible only by strenuous canyoneering requiring swimming through pools and scrambling over boulders, demonstrates erosion's artistic precision. The subway's circular cross-section formed because water flowing through the narrow channel created a vortex effect, grinding the walls uniformly in all directions. The tunnel measures approximately 12 to 15 feet in diameter at its most circular sections, with walls polished smooth by centuries of flash floods carrying abrasive sediment. 30. The Hanging Gardens ecosystem. Where water seeps from canyon walls, unique hanging gardens develop, vertical oases sustained by permanent moisture and otherwise desert cliffs. These gardens support over 900 plant species documented in Zion, including endemic species found nowhere else. The Zion shooting star Dodecatheon pulchellum zionense. Zion daisy, Erigeron zionensis, and alcove bog orchid, research by the National Park Service shows these hanging gardens occupy less than 0.1% of the park's total area, yet support 15% of its plant biodiversity. The gardens survive because seepage water emerges at the contact zone between porous Navajo sandstone above and impermeable Kayenta formation below, creating permanent springs. 29. The California Condor reintroduction success. Zion became a release site for critically endangered California condors starting in 1996, when the species was extinct in the wild with only 22 birds surviving in captivity. Today, over 90 condors soar above Zion's cliffs, with several breeding pairs successfully raising chicks. These massive birds, with 9.5-foot wingspans, can travel 150 miles per day searching for carrion and live up to 60 years. GPS tracking data shows condors released at Zion regularly travel to the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, and beyond, creating a regional population across southern Utah and northern Arizona. The population has grown at approximately 10 to 15% annually, one of conservation's remarkable success stories. 28. The Desert Bighorn Sheep Cliffside. Desert bighorn sheep navigate Zion's sheer sandstone walls with specialized hooves, featuring a hard outer edge and soft inner pad that grips slick rock like climbing shoes. GPS collar research by Utah Division of Wildlife Resources shows individual sheep routinely traverse terrain with slopes exceeding 70 degrees, angles impossible for humans without technical climbing equipment. The park's bighorn population, estimated at 400 to 500 individuals, can jump vertically 6 feet and leap 15 feet across gaps while navigating cliff faces. They survive by accessing water sources and mineral licks on ledges unreachable by predators. 27. The 4 life zones stacked vertically. Zion contains 4 distinct life zones stacked from canyon floor at 3,900 feet elevation to the highest peaks at 8,726 feet. Desert scrub, riparian, coniferous forest, and ponderosa pine woodland. This 4,800 foot elevation range creates climate zones equivalent to traveling from Mexico to Canada. At the canyon floor, summer temperatures exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit with barrel cacti and yucca. At the plateau rim, temperatures remain 30 degrees cooler with Douglas fir and aspen. A single day's hike from the canyon bottom to observation point traverses these zones, experiencing dramatic changes in temperature, precipitation, and vegetation. 26. The Virgin River's flash flood power. The Virgin River can rise from ankle deep to a 20-foot wall of water in minutes during flash floods. The deadliest modern flood occurred on September 14, 2015, when 7 people died in Keyhole Canyon, a technical slot canyon, after a flash flood struck with virtually no warning. Historical USGS gauge data shows the river has reached flows of 9,000 cubic feet per second during extreme floods, 180 times normal flows of 50 CFs. These floods carry boulders the size of cars at speeds up to 25 miles per hour, completely reshaping the canyon floor and demonstrating the Virgin River's ongoing erosive power. 25. The Zion snail's isolated evolution. The Zion snail, Phisa zionis, exists in only a few thermal springs within the park, and nowhere else on Earth. This endemic species evolved in isolation for thousands of years in permanent spring habitats fed by groundwater that maintains constant 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures year-round. The snail population totals fewer than 10,000 individuals across just 3 spring systems, making it one of the rarest mollusks in North America. Climate change threatening groundwater levels could drive this species to extinction within decades, as it cannot survive outside its specialized thermal spring habitat. 24. The ancestral Puebloan hidden sites. Archaeological evidence shows ancestral Puebloans inhabited Zion from 500 to 1200 AD, leaving behind over 50 documented archaeological sites. The most remarkable are cliff granaries built in alcoves 100 plus feet above canyon floors, requiring technical climbing to access. These storage structures, constructed from stacked sandstone and mud mortar, held corn, beans, and squash protected from rodents and moisture. Archaeologists estimate the granaries could store enough food to sustain 20 to 30 people through winter. Rock art panels throughout the park depict bighorn sheep hunts and agricultural symbols, proving sustained human habitation for 700 years. 23. The Mormon pioneer naming. The park's name Zion was given by Mormon pioneer Isaac Bahunin in the 1860s, who homesteaded in the canyon and saw it as a natural temple, a place of refuge from persecution. Early Mormon settlers built farms along the canyon floor, but the original Paiute name, Mukuntuwe, meant straight canyon or straight arrow, a far more geologically accurate description of the linear canyon carved by the Virgin River. The park was originally designated Mukuntuweap National Monument in 1909 before being renamed Zion National Park in 1919 to attract more visitors. 22. The Zion Mount Carmel Tunnel Engineering. The 1.1-mile Zion Mount Carmel Tunnel, completed in 1930, required workers to be lowered on ropes down sheer cliffs to drill and blast from the outside, creating 6 gallery windows carved through the tunnel walls. Construction took 3 years, employed over 100 workers, and cost $1.9 million, equivalent to $35 million today. The project claimed several workers' lives from falls and rock collapses. The tunnel was engineering marvel of its era, allowing vehicle access to Zion's high country and transforming the park from remote wilderness to major tourist destination. Modern oversized vehicles require traffic control to pass through, as the tunnel is only 13 feet wide. 21. The Angel's Landing Death Toll. Angel's Landing, reached by a 5.4-mile round-trip hike with 1,488 feet of elevation gain, has claimed at least 17 confirmed deaths since 2000. The final half-mile traverses a knife-edge ridge only 5 feet wide with 1,000-foot drops on both sides, where hikers navigate using only a chain handrail bolted into the rock. On busy days, hundreds of hikers attempt the route simultaneously, creating dangerous congestion on the narrow ridge. In 2022, the Park Service implemented a permit lottery system limiting daily hikers to reduce crowding and accidents. Despite the danger, over 300,000 people applied for just 43,000 available permits in the first year. 20. The Kolob Arch Span Controversy. Kolob Arch, located in the remote northwestern Kolob Canyon section, requiring a 14-mile round-trip hike to reach, was long believed to be the world's largest natural arch with a span of 310 feet. Recent laser measurements by the Natural Arch and Bridge Society reduced the official span to 287 feet, dethroning it as the world's largest but still making it one of the longest freestanding arches on Earth. The arch stands 310 feet tall and is composed of Navajo sandstone that formed from ancient sand dunes. Fewer than 5,000 visitors annually make the difficult hike to view it compared to the 4.5 million who visit Zion Canyon. 19. The Checkerboard Mesa Cross Bedding. Checkerboard Mesa displays a distinctive grid pattern formed by horizontal bedding planes intersected by vertical fractures. The horizontal lines represent original layers in ancient sand dunes deposited 190 million years ago, while the vertical cracks formed from freeze-thaw weathering, creating joints in the rock. This creates a perfect checkerboard pattern visible from the road. The cross-bedding within the sandstone, curved layers showing the shapes of ancient dunes, indicates prevailing winds blew from northwest to southeast during the Jurassic period when this was an active desert. 18. The park's slot canyon danger. Zion contains some of the world's deepest and narrowest slot canyons, where walls rise 500 plus feet but are only 3 to 6 feet apart. These technical canyons, like the Subway, Orderville Canyon, and Keyhole Canyon, require rappelling, swimming, and advanced canyoneering skills to navigate. The danger is flash floods. Rain falling 20 miles away can create a wall of water funneling into these narrow passages with no escape routes. Park. Rangers require permits and check weather forecasts before allowing entry. The 2015 Keyhole Canyon flood that killed 7 people occurred after rain fell in distant mountains, demonstrating how flash floods can strike with victims never seeing the storm. 17. The temperature inversion phenomenon. During winter, cold air sinks into Zion Canyon, creating temperature inversions where the canyon floor can be 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit colder than the rim. This traps pollution and creates foggy conditions while the rim enjoys clear skies. Park air quality monitoring shows these inversions can last several days, concentrating particulate matter and reducing visibility. The phenomenon occurs because cold air is denser than warm air, pooling at the lowest elevation. Hikers starting at the frozen canyon floor can climb to the rim and experience 50-degree temperature differences and completely different weather within a 2-hour hike. 16. The Peregrine falcon comeback. Peregrine falcons disappeared from Zion by the 1960s due to DDT pesticide poisoning thinning their eggshells. Reintroduction efforts in the 1970s to 80s brought captive-bred falcons back to the canyon, and the population has recovered to over 15 breeding pairs nesting on sheer cliff faces. These birds hunt by diving at speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour, the fastest animal on Earth, striking prey in mid-air with enough force to kill instantly. Park Service monitoring shows successful fledging rates averaging 2 to 3 chicks per nest annually, and seasonal climbing closures protect nesting sites from disturbance. 15. The Emerald Pools System. The emerald pools are fed by springs producing constant water flow year-round, despite receiving only 15 inches of annual rainfall. The three-tiered pool system, lower, middle, and upper emerald pools, is connected by waterfalls and sustained by groundwater emerging from the contact between Navajo sandstone and underlying Kayenta Formation. However, drought and increased visitation have reduced flow rates by an estimated 30% over the past 30 years. The pools support unique riparian ecosystems including Fremont cottonwood, canyon tree frog, and Zion tiger salamander, species dependent on permanent water in the desert. 14. The Riverside Walk's paved perfection. The Riverside Walk is a fully paved 2.2-mile trail, one way, along the Virgin River designed to be wheelchair accessible, making it the only paved trail in any national park that ends at the entrance to a technical river canyon requiring wading. The trail terminates at the Narrows entrance where the Virgin River flows through a canyon only 20 to 30 feet wide with walls 1,000 feet tall. From pavement, hikers transition to wading through knee-to-waist deep water. The contrast is dramatic. Elderly visitors and families with strollers share the paved trail with canyoneers preparing for a 16-mile backcountry river trek. 13. The mystery of the disappearing river. During extreme drought, sections of the Virgin River completely disappear. Underground, flowing through porous sandstone and gravel beds beneath the visible canyon floor. Hydrological studies using dye tracers show water sinking into the riverbed in one location and re-emerging 300 to 500 yards downstream. This subsurface flow occurs because the Virgin River has deposited deep gravel beds from millennia of floods, and during low flow periods, water infiltrates these permeable deposits. The phenomenon demonstrates the complex hydrology where surface and groundwater systems interconnect, and climate change predictions suggest increasing drought could make river disappearance more common. 12. The Kolob Canyon separate ecosystem. The Kolob Canyon section, located 40 miles northwest of Zion Canyon in the park's remote corner, receives 40% more precipitation due to higher elevation, 7,000 to 8,000 feet, and different weather patterns. This creates completely different vegetation, dense forests of ponderosa pine, Douglas fir, and aspen versus the canyon floor's desert. Scrub. The Kolob Canyons receive only 5% of total park visitation, approximately 225,000 visitors annually versus 4.5 million at Zion Canyon, preserving a wilderness character lost in the main canyon. Most Zion visitors never realize this section exists. 11. The park's night sky quality. Zion achieved International Dark Sky Park status in 2021, with Bortle Class 2 to 3 darkness in remote areas allowing visibility of the Milky Way core, zodiacal light, and over 7,500 stars visible to the naked eye. However, light pollution from Springdale, population 500, just outside the south entrance, and St. George, 90,000 population, 40 miles southwest, threatens this darkness. Park night sky monitoring shows brightness increasing approximately 2% annually due to regional development. The Park Service is working with surrounding communities to implement dark sky friendly lighting, but urban growth continues encroaching. 10. The Megalosaur Tracks discovery. In 1996, researchers discovered a trackway of Kayenta, a carnivorous dinosaur approximately 10 feet long, preserved in the Kayenta Formation rocks near the park. These 190-million-year-old footprints prove that dinosaurs walked across mudflats that would eventually become Zion's geological foundations. The trackway shows stride length of 4 feet and footprints 8 inches long, allowing paleontologists to calculate the animal's size, gait, and walking speed. Additional tracks of smaller theropod dinosaurs and early crocodilians have been found, revealing a Jurassic ecosystem ecosystem that existed before the Navajo sandstone dunes buried the region. 9. The climate change impact on water. Climate models developed by the U.S. Geological Survey predict the Virgin River's flow will decrease by 20 to 40% by 2050 due to reduced snowpack in the headwaters and increased evaporation from higher temperatures. Average annual flow has already declined from 200 cubic feet per second in the 1980s to 150 cubic feet per second currently. Continued decline could transform the perennial river into a seasonal stream, fundamentally altering Zion's riparian ecosystem. Species like the Zion snail and virgin spine-dace fish that require permanent water would face extinction. The hanging gardens dependent on seepage water could dry up as the water table drops. 8. The Rockfall monitoring system. The National Park Service has installed sophisticated monitoring equipment including extensometers and tilt meters on key cliff faces to detect micro movements and predict rockfalls before they occur. Data shows major rockfall events happen on average every 2 to 3 years, with some displacing thousands of tons of sandstone. The largest recent event occurred in April 2019 when a massive slab estimated at 2,000 tons fell from the face near Weeping Rock, permanently closing the trail. Monitoring detected increased crack widening for 6 months before the collapse, but the exact trigger, likely water infiltration and freeze-thaw, remains under study. 7. The Court of the Patriarchs Formation. The 3 massive sandstone peaks called Abraham Peak, 6,990 feet, Isaac Peak, 7,185 feet, and Jacob Peak, 6,825 feet, collectively known as the Court of the Patriarchs, were named by Methodist minister Frederick Vining Fisher in 1916. These formations rise 2,000 to 3,000 feet above the canyon floor and are visible from a single viewpoint accessible by a short spur road. The formations represent erosional remnants of the same Navajo sandstone layers that form the main canyon walls, isolated by side canyon erosion. A 4th unnamed peak called Mount Moroni, 7,505 feet, stands behind the Patriarchs, representing the highest point visible from the canyon floor. 6. The Canyon Junction Flood History. At the junction where the North Fork and East Fork of the Virgin River meet, a USGS stream gauge installed in 1909 has recorded over a century of flood data. The most devastating documented flood occurred in December 1966 when the river reached 4,700 cubic feet per second, 94 times normal flow, and reshaped the entire canyon floor overnight, moving boulders 10 feet in diameter and depositing 3 to 5 feet of new sediment across former campgrounds. The flood destroyed roads, bridges, and facilities, requiring complete reconstruction of park infrastructure. The gauge provides critical data for flood forecasting and visitor safety. 5. The Watchman's Sentinel Position. The Watchman, a 6,545-foot peak guarding the southern entrance to Zion Canyon, was named by early settlers who imagined it as a sentinel watching over the canyon. This distinctive formation, composed of Springdale sandstone capped by Monave Formation rock, has become the park's most photographed feature from the visitor center area. The Watchman Trail, a 3.3-mile round-trip hike gaining 368 feet, provides sunset views where the formation glows orange-red against darkening sky. Geological studies show the Watchman's resistant cap rock protects softer layers beneath, slowing erosion and allowing it to stand as an isolated sentinel. 4. The East Rim Trail's Petrified Dunes. The East Rim reveals ancient sand dune structures perfectly preserved in stone, with cross-bedding patterns showing prevailing wind directions from 190 million years ago when this region was a desert comparable to the modern Sahara. These petrified dunes display sweeping curves and angles, matching modern desert dune formations in Namibia and the Arabian Peninsula. Geologists use these patterns to reconstruct Jurassic climate conditions, determining that winds blew consistently from the northwest and that the desert experienced seasonal monsoons, creating the layering visible today. The East Rim provides a window into a vanished world predating dinosaurs' extinction. 3. The Angels Landing Permit System. In response to overcrowding and safety concerns, Zion implemented a permit lottery system for Angels Landing in 2022, limiting daily hikers to protect both visitors and resources. The system allocates just 120 permits per day through advanced lottery and day before lottery. In the first year, over 300,000 people applied for 43,000 total available permits, a 14% success rate. Data shows the permit system reduced Angels Landing hikers by by approximately 40%, significantly decreasing congestion on the dangerous ridge section and allowing safer passage. The lottery generates revenue funding trail maintenance and ranger patrols. 2. The Virgin River's sediment transport. Before upstream Quail Creek and Gunlock reservoirs were completed in the 1980s, the Virgin River carried an average of 1 million tons of sediment annually through Zion Canyon, enough material to fill 50,000 dump trucks. The reservoirs now trap approximately 65% of upstream sediment, reducing the river's sediment load to 350,000 tons annually. This has two effects. The river runs clearer, improving visibility for wade hikers in the narrows, but it also has reduced the river's erosive power. With less abrasive sediment, the river carves more slowly. Paradoxically, upstream dams have slowed the very geological process that created Zion Canyon. 1. The youngest canyon on the plateau. We've reached the end of our journey, and here's the paradigm-shifting conclusion. Zion Canyon is one of the geologically youngest major canyons on the Colorado Plateau, at only 1 to 3 million years old, compared to the Grand Canyon's 5 to 6 million years, and Canyonland's ancient erosion spanning tens of millions of years. The dramatic landscape visitors see today formed in the geological equivalent of an instant. The Virgin River is still actively carving deeper every year, cutting downward at approximately 1 foot every 300 to 500 years, while the plateau continues rising. This means Zion is not a finished product, it's a work in progress. The canyon 1 million years from now will be unrecognizable, carved hundreds of feet deeper, with formations like Angel's Landing and the Watchman long since collapsed into rubble. We are witnessing Zion in its youth, a canyon actively being born. After discovering these 35 Zion facts you won't believe are true, tell us which one shocked you the most or completely changed your understanding of this canyon. Leave it in the comments. Let's see which fact resonates with the most people. And if you know an incredible Zion fact we missed, or have your own discovery to share from visiting the park, we'd love to hear from you. Your insights make these videos richer for everyone. There's another national park video on screen right now, so you can keep exploring America's most incredible landscapes. But before you go, subscribe and hit the like button so we can continue revealing the hidden stories behind these natural wonders. See you in the next one.